Right, welcome to the Boxing News Office. This is the opening bell broadcast now, rather than a podcast. I'm joined by Nick Bond, veteran Boxing News designer, social media guru, and all-round expert, and George Gigney, ace reporter.
Thanks, mate.
An expert.
An expert. Me, I know nothing.
What do you do, John?
I am the online editor.
And expert.
Rarely. I wouldn't go that far. Anyway, in this week's issue of the magazine, it's all about Wladimir Klitschko. Legend. Or is he?
Right.
Why is Wladimir Klitschko a legend? I'm George. Wladimir Klitschko retired last week, unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Will he be fondly remembered?
I think so. And I think a big part of that was the fight with Joshua. Prior to that, he had the loss to Fury. A lot of people saying, he's past it, things like that. And he had the criticisms that were levelled at him. People said he's robotic, he's boring. And then in this glorious night at Wembley, people realised that he is a real warrior. And he has that heart. And I think we've seen from the reaction since he's retired that there's so much respect for what he achieved. In my view, he's a legend. I think he'll go down as a legend. I think we all agree as a team that he's a legend. You look at the people he beat, you look at the way he beat them, you look at the incredible length of time that he was a champion. He was so dominant, and I think as time goes on, he will be more and more respected and more appreciated.
But Nick, was he potentially flattered by weak opposition?
I mean, Klitschko fought for so long. He fought everybody, all styles. He himself fought in a manner of different ways. He was boring at times. Safety first. But that period, he had he was unbeaten for 11 years.
Yeah.
And when he wanted to, when he turned it on, he was a powerful, exciting guy, dominant champion. You can criticise his opposition sometimes, like the Alex Leopis of the world, people like that. But he beat who was put in front of him, mostly. And he came back from those 3 stoppage defeats, which was pretty impressive because they all came before his dominant reign, and they could have put pay to to lesser fighters. But that's the mark of a champion, really, to be able to come back from defeats like that, and to come back from the Fury defeat where he did look, arguably finish, and to perform like he did against Joshua was, nothing short of amazing at his age, and for the time he's been a pro, it's phenomenal stuff.
You disappointed he retired when he retired? Right, we all kind of expected there to be a Joshua rematch, probably in November, probably in Las Vegas. Were we disappointed we actually didn't get to see it again?
Well, I think when the Joshua fight was announced, we did kind of speculate that should he lose, he would probably retire.
Yeah.
But nobody imagined how he would perform against Joshua. Had he beaten Joshua, Joshua would have come again, no doubt. But losing to Joshua was just going to get better. Klitschko was just going to get older. I salute him for retiring. He's just a great role model. He did everything right pretty much through his career, all the right decisions, and this was just the ultimate right decision.
Yeah, I think he made the right call. I think any disappointment over it maybe came from how close the rematch seemed to be to being announced. We were told it was November 11th in Las Vegas. Eddie Hearn and Joshua's side were making it out as if it was pretty close and nailed on. And then Klitschko came. So I think any disappointment over his retirement was just because the rematch seemed so close. But like Nick was saying, I think he made the right call. I can't see him replicating the performance he made against Joshua in Wembley. He may have lost badly to Joshua in a rematch, I don't know.
We would all love to have seen a repeat of the Wembley fight, but the chances of that happening were just getting slimmer and slimmer.
Yeah. And he came so close to beating Joshua.
That right hand.
But did he let Joshua off the hook, or did he just not manage to finish his opportunity?
The legend will be that he let Joshua off the hook, but the reality is they were in a tough fight, and I'm sure had he thought he could have taken him out, he would have gone for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Boxers aren't really known for stepping off the gas.
Yeah,
out of-
exactly.
out of
Klitschko
mercy.
knew he was with a young, strong, hungry fighter, and if he didn't put him away, it would have, been more difficult, Joshua.
Yeah,
and ultimately we saw that.
You've got to give credit to Joshua as well for surviving that and not sort of just rolling over and
I mean, Klitschko came within a cat's whisker of beating.
oh yeah, he was Joshua was in a bad way.
From the end of the fifth
Fifth when he badly
and the whole of the sixth.
Yeah,
It was torrid time for Joshua, and Joshua showed a lot of heart and determination. Those were defining rounds for Klitschko.
But it sounds like we're thinking if they had done the rematch, Joshua would probably have won it better second time round. How do you think a rematch would have gone?
Oh yeah, history tells us that when you've got the old champion who gives the young, hungry lion a real good fight, and they do it again. The old champion's just got older. The young, hungry lion's got stronger and more ferocious. It's unlikely that Klitschko would have had as much success, and he probably knows that.
Do you think there's sort of a parallel there in when Lennox Lewis chose to retire, in that Vitaly Klitschko gave him a hard fight? Maybe Vitaly was only going to be getting better.
Yeah, the only difference is that Lewis won on cuts, didn't he? Stoppage. But Klitschko, Vitaly was winning that fight. Yeah, that's a good parallel to George. Well done.
So if Lewis is an all-time great, is Klitschko an all-time great? As in, how would he compare to the great heavyweights in history, and how would he have done against them? Or is it sort of pointless trying to make the comparisons in different eras?
I mean, it's so difficult to make those comparisons, especially when you're saying would he beat such and such, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, or whatever. I think he's I think he's an all-time great. I think he fully deserves to be up there. We touched on it a bit. One of the criticisms you could say is the level of opposition, but he fought everyone available to him. He won all those world titles.
Yeah, you know what?
He was so dominant.
His biggest fights, aside from Joshua, which came when he was 40, 41 years old, were Povetkin and Hay. They were probably his biggest rivals, weren't they? Certainly, as he was a champion, and he won them handily and dominated. So he won the important fights.
He was almost too dominant in those fights. None of us are going to look back fondly on the Povetkin fight,
especially the Hay fight.
And neither the Hay fight.
Yeah, I mean he was hard to defeat. I mean, because the manner in which he won, more often than not, wasn't pretty. Sometimes, jab, clinch, lean, right hand, but he was hard to beat.
So effective.
Yeah.
And if you,
but when he did let the punches go, it was a sight to see, wasn't it? Against Chagayev and people like that. When he put them away, he put them flat out.
You look at the Pulev fight as well. That was a fight where he seemed to be wanting to make a statement of intent, and he looked sensational that night.
And now Pulev's right up there. In the mix as one of the best heavyweights in the world.
Yeah, he was probably going to fight Joshua next, isn't he?
Yeah.
So Klitschko all those years ago did that to him. I think he deserves to be up there as an all-time great. There'll be a lot of dispute over it. But I think in the years to come, people will start looking back over what he did, how long he did it, and how he beat these people like you're talking about.
You can't deny his achievements. 11 years undefeated, 29 world heavyweight title fights.
Yeah.
Albeit against some iffy opposition, but you still have to get in there and win. And in heavyweight boxing, his chin probably wasn't the greatest of all the heavyweights either. So.
Yeah,
which made his accomplishments even the more impressive.
You'd think he'd be someone who would have been in more exciting fights given his vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's sort of testament to his ability to defend that chin.
Yeah, the San Peter fight, the first San Peter fight, when he got up 3 times, got up to win.
Yeah,
just an insight into his heart, really.
And that was so soon after his bad losses as well. So those demons still would have been there.
Yeah, Corey Sanders.
Yeah.
He lost those 2 fights within a year, 18 months or whatever.
And then he fought Peter. Right?
Well, I mean, we did have a lot of discussions about the line on the front, didn't we?
Yeah.
We had to have that conversation, but I think we're all unanimous that he is a legend. Where he fits in history is subjective.
Yeah.
Probably top 10. Looking at his achievements.
And maybe part of what counts against him was that in his, he shared his, dominant run, and he shared his reign with his brother.
Yeah.
They were never going to fight each other.
No.
Therefore, we were never going to have a single number one, the best heavyweight in the world, until Vitaly had retired, and until Vladimir beat David Haye.
Yeah, it was sort of like a two-headed heavyweight champion, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was very easy to say, the Klitschkos are very boring, they're robotic, they do the same thing. And like I said, there was no one heavyweight champion to point to and say he's the man, because they were always both there at the same time. But
if anything, he was a dominant heavyweight champion. But maybe it hurt him a bit that he came after the likes of Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, Lennox, even Tyson, who all fought each other in really good fights. Klitschko probably didn't have a defining fight like that.
Well, until Joshua, which he lost. Unfortunately for him, he lost.
But Holyfield, Bowe, Lewis, they were established great heavyweights, whereas Joshua isn't yet. Do you know what I mean? And Haye isn't really, and Povetkin isn't really. Although they were Klitschko's toughest challenges, he didn't have that opponent like a Holyfield or a Bowe.
And he never really caught on in America.
No. Yeah, heavyweight boxing in America has been a strange thing lately, isn't it? They've not really had the champion. I mean, Deontay Wilder is, probably their best at the minute, but he's not a great. They haven't had a great heavyweight for a while. So,
on the flip side of that, Klitschko is a rock star in Europe, isn't it? Across Europe, in those countries.
But the other positive thing for Vlad is that he fought everywhere. He didn't just stay in Germany and sell out football stadiums. He came to England. He went to America. He went to Povetkin's backyard in Moscow. Yeah. He would go where the challenges were, and he sought out the challenges.
Yeah, and maybe a lot of the, he fought a lot of weak opposition, but he had a lot of fights. And also, as we're seeing now, it's really hard to hold on to 3 world heavyweight titles.
So
you've got to fight the Leopards and the randomers.
You got mandatories to fulfil. But what also, the whole package is him as a man and how he carried himself. Which
absolutely,
what a guy, what a legend, He just fist bumped his way around the world, didn't he?
I nearly shook his fist once. The first time my first big interview ever for Boxing News, with a boxing superstar, was with Wladimir Klitschko before a Vitaly Klitschko fight. And I went over to he had a hotel suite, and I had to sit down with him for an hour, which was really good, but my dictaphone didn't work.
2011.
Yeah. And
it was for the annual, wasn't it? I think?
Yeah. And then at the end, and then he signed some gloves for someone who was around, and then at the end I was leaving, and I sort of I was waiting to shake his hand. Yeah, he held out his fist, and I was just watching myself, because I was in handshaking mode. I was watching myself reaching out to shake his fist.
You only fist bump,
Yeah.
Did you shake it? Did you correct it at the last second?
I was sort of trapped with my hand working of its own accord, but then I saved it at the last minute.
The classic other Klitschko fist bump story is when Tyson Fury refused to do it the way Klitschko fist bumped everyone, but Tyson refused. And of course, you can't talk about Klitschko without talking about Tyson Fury.
Yeah, I guess the Fury fight was kind of the end of the Klitschko era, wasn't it?
Yeah, in many ways it was, because that ended his reign, didn't it? And he didn't win those titles back, but it's difficult because the Joshua fight will be such a big part of his legacy, and to an extent that does add to the Klitschko era. But you're right, Tyson did end it officially, took his titles.
Probably the biggest fight that he didn't have was the Fury rematch. That would have answered so many questions. That would have just taken it to a different level. But
we'll never have it now.
No,
they're both out of the game.
Yeah, apparently so.
Do you think but hypothetically speaking, do you think the Fury rematch would have been different in that it seemed that Klitschko was more aggressive against Klitschko was more aggressive against Joshua than he was against Fury? Was that him and how he prepared, or was that Fury's really difficult style of mobility for such a big man?
I think
He's tall and big as well as having good footwork. Fury.
I think it's a bit of both. Klitschko was in unbelievable shape for the Joshua fight, and he had the conditioning he had for it, especially at his age, was phenomenal. So that plays a part into it. But Fury is such a difficult person to fight, and I think the reason Klitschko didn't pull the trigger as much as he usually does is because of the way Fury was boxing. I think you have to give Fury credit
to Fury for
negating Klitschko. So I don't think it would have been a completely different fight in the rematch, but I certainly think it would have been more competitive. In the first fight, Klitschko, I think it was in the 12th round, he did at least try. He did start to come into it. I know it's way too late, but
he sort of woke up.
And he's such a smart fighter and man. He would have known what mistakes to address leading up to the rematch and things like that. So I think it would have been different. I don't know, completely different. I don't know if the result would have been different, but
Fury got everything right that night, and everything went wrong for Klitschko, certainly in the ring.
Well, and even in the build-up to the fight, Fury definitely seemed to be like Klitschko didn't know how to deal with him, and he feel like Klitschko likes to be in control. No, even Tyson himself.
Stylistically, Klitschko was bamboozled. He looked poor, very poor, as bad as we've ever seen him. He didn't throw any right hands, did he? And he could only have improved.
And before the fight, they tried to do something with the canvas and have like a thick spongy layer, but then Team Fury sort of caught them out there. So
that would have been huge. The rematch would have been huge.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been.
So, in a world without Wladimir Klitschko, who are the best heavyweights?
There's only one man, isn't there? Is the guy who beat him, but we'd love to see Fury back. He would really shake things up,
but in the right way.
In Klitschko's absence, to be fair, it's not that deep anymore, is it? There's Joshua, and then there's the rest, isn't there?
Yeah, it's weird in that Joshua hasn't even had 20 fights yet. But without the Klitschko rematch, he's suddenly looking around for opponents, which I don't think any of us you really expected.
No.
There's Joshua Wilder, who's, the jury's out on, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes he looks good against Deverne winning the title. He showed that he doesn't have to rely on his power. But since then, he's almost taken a step back, both with the quality of his opposition and the way he's looked.
Yeah, almost each fight he's gone backwards.
Yeah, he looks so wild and raw at times, but
you can't make a case for him to beat Joshua, can you?
No,
but he's probably the second best heavyweight in the world.
And the size of that fight is huge. Unification fight. I mean, they could do that in Vegas, but
is Pulev better than Wilder?
Yeah, I mean, his record is probably better.
Be a good fight.
I think it's arguably better, but would I pick Pulev over Wilder at this stage? Probably not. But it's looking like Joshua's going to fight Pulev next, which I think is a very good fight. Obviously, it's not the Klitschko rematch. It's not the same standard.
In the scheme of things, because he's all that's there, isn't he?
Yeah, mandatory challenger. Things are complicated with the WBA because they've very smartly called their mandatory at the same time, which is Luis Ortiz. I can't see that happening at this stage.
Is Luis Ortiz as good as we thought he was a couple of years ago? Because his fights in Monaco
says it all, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, because he blasted out Brian Jennings and then had a fight in Monaco against Malik Scott where Ortiz looked terrible.
Yeah.
And then he took a while to stop Dave Allen and looked bad there.
He didn't look great, did he? Sometimes I think his motivation with Ortiz, I think when he's fighting someone like a Malik Scott and a Dave Allen, no disrespect to them, but they're not going to enhance his world standing and his world ranking, and he knows that they're not one of the world champions. So I think maybe he was sort of just boxing to his level of opposition and just doing what he needed to do.
I think for Ortiz, the myth is probably a lot better than what the reality is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But if Joshua's next 3 fights are mandatory IBF, Pulev, mandatory WA, Ortiz, huge showdown with Wilder in Las Vegas, that's not a bad run, is it?
It's a great run.
But after that, then what we got?
There's the winner of Joseph Parker, Hughie Fury.
Yeah,
that's a great potential opponent for him. I mean, if he has that run of 3 fights, that's a very good run of fights, especially in the scheme of things.
What about Mr. Hay?
We don't know.
Surely his loss to Tony Bellew is fairly hard to come back from.
But what's the situation should Hughie Fury beat Parker? There's been talk of Hay fighting Fury, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a apparent, yeah.
I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Hay could all of a sudden find himself beating Hughie Fury.
But then he's world champion
Yeah,
again, and then
live
fight Joshua. No, not at all.
Yeah, but
It's a funny old game, isn't it?
but at Hayes' age and the kind of injury he had, how could he?
He's
could
making
get
all the
through?
noises, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we really need to see. We need to see him back, see what he's got. You know, against a decent opponent. I mean, the Bellew rematch would make a lot of sense, but apparently now it's looking like it's dead in the water for whatever reason. But we need to see Hay back in the ring, fit, to see definitively what he has left, to see if the injury took a lot out of him, and then I think we can assess it from there.
It was a bad injury.
It was, a really bad injury. I don't think it'd be the best idea for him to then straight away fight the Parker Fury winner.
Well, but the thing is, for Hay, it's a roll of the dice, isn't it? If he takes a relatively small fight and the injury goes and he's lost,
that's true, that's true.
He should just go for the biggest fight possible, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, with his sort of comeback, what he did was two really
Mark
easy
Demore,
fights. Yeah, that he took out quick.
Yeah.
And actually, if we believe what he was saying, he must have thought he was going to take out Tony Bellew quickly too.
I think he did,
a big fight.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people thought he would, didn't they?
Yeah.
So
I think whether he can get through a 12-round championship fight against a big a good big heavyweight is an open question.
yeah, I mean, you look at the size difference between him and Joshua, and it's huge because Joshua is just a giant,
Yeah.
and Hay isn't the biggest of heavyweights.
Yeah, and he's never. I don't think Hay's been great with big heavyweights, in that Wladimir was a giant but not a good boxer.
Yeah,
Obviously, Klitschko
we
was
saw
big
that,
and very
yeah.
good, and he really struggled to get to grips with it.
but then Joshua's so different to Klitschko, and Joshua likes to come at you, likes to throw a lot of punches.
Yeah, I don't
Could be more
yeah.
suited to Hay's counter punching and speed. Don't know.
Hay's an anomaly.
Yeah,
What are our thoughts on Big Baby Miller?
Great nickname.
Great.
To be fair, actually, I'm not sure I've even watched him fight. I've just seen him talk.
Watching
And
him
he
talk
is
is a lot
big.
of fun.
He's nearly like
He is
300
big.
pounds.
Yeah.
He is a
Yeah.
big baby.
He is a big baby. I've seen, a couple of his
he's
fights.
knocking on the door of the top 10, isn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think he is. He's knocking people out. He's exciting to watch. He's not the best boxer on the planet. He's not the best heavyweight in terms of boxing, but
He was on the Broner bill, wasn't he?
yeah, he stopped Gerald Washington, which was a decent win.
Who beat Washington as well recently?
Wilder.
Wilder,
yeah.
Yeah, he was terrible though, wasn't he? Washington?
yeah.
Blimey.
But yeah, and he's got that gift of the gab. He is.
He'll talk himself into a big fight.
I think he could.
Yeah.
I mean, him against someone like Dillian White, I think is a very good fight at this stage. I think they're both
Dylan White
maybe
is another
at
one.
a similar level. I'd say White's probably a bit above him, but the clash of personalities there will be very interesting. And then I think it's a great fight for them both.
White's gunning for Wilder, isn't he? Which seems
Yeah.
there seems to be a lot of talk, and the closest he's getting is Malcolm Tan, whoever he is,
Yeah.
in Omaha, Nebraska,
Yeah.
or not even Omaha, in somewhere.
I think
Nebraska.
it's just like an American showcase for White, isn't it? To sort of introduce him to that American audience in the hope that the Wilder fight's going to happen, and so he'll be more well known in America. I assume that fight would happen in America. I don't know, but Wilder.
You would imagine.
Yeah. Apparently, there's 4 million's been put on the table for
Alabama.
Wilder. Yeah, probably in Alabama.
Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. I mean, if it is 4 million to fight Dillian White, I can't see why Wilder wouldn't take it. But
Of course he would.
yeah, but Wilder's insists that he wants the likes of Joshua and Parker. There doesn't seem to have been any real concrete discussions to get those fights made. There's a lot of videos of Wilder online talking on Instagram.
Isn't
and things
that
like
the
that.
best fights are made?
Yeah,
Everyone
nowadays
calls
they
each
are,
other out
yeah.
on Twitter, don't they?
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
But if White Wilder were to happen, is that a good fight?
I mean,
It's not a bad fight.
White's
actually,
top 10, isn't he? White's in our top 10.
Well, then
But then so is Dominic Brazil, isn't he?
Yeah, Dominic Brazil just got in. Klitschko retired, so Dominic Brazil came in. But I think it's a pretty good fight for Wilder. I think White's better than the majority of the opponents that Wilder's made defences against so far. I think White's made improvements since the Joshua fight.
You know what? Looking at the heavyweight division, you'd think Anthony Joshua now can rule for as long as he wants.
Yeah, I
Do you
agree.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can be the next Klitschko. Certainly in the near future, there's nobody who you'd give much of a chance.
Yeah, well, it's kind of there for the taking, isn't it? As in, if he doesn't make mistakes.
He can rule now.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
And plus, he's had the sort of, through all his run up to the Klitschko fight, he was knocking everyone out, so he hadn't had the rounds under his belt. Yeah. He hadn't had, I'm sure he had good sparring, but not a kind of real competitive fight other than White for a bit.
Yeah.
He's had that now with Klitschko, so you've got to think he's going to be sort of ticking the boxes as he's gone along.
Yeah.
2 questions then. Do you think he'll be in a bigger fight than the Klitschko fight, Joshua? In his career? Difficult to say, but was your gut tell?
I think with the way his trajectory is going, I'd probably say yes, but if you ask me who against, I couldn't tell you at this stage. Maybe in a few years, maybe the Wild, I don't know. Like you say, looking at the landscape now, there's no one out there like the Klitschko.
And what do you think?
My gut says yes, because now Joshua is at that level of fame that is much bigger than even he was before the Klitschko fight. So every fight he's in from now on will be a big fight, and sooner or later someone's going to come along to capture the imagination, and that could be. I know Fury's got his UCAD drug test fail hearing to contend with. If he gets a ban, Fury could be out of the game for a couple of years for all we know, but Fury comes back, and that is huge, isn't it? Because Fury didn't lose in the ring. No. Fury is sort of, he's everything Klitschko is not, but he will capture the public attention, and he will have. I know people are more complicated than that, but it will be sort of presented to the public as good guy versus bad guy, and that does generate excitement.
Yeah. What was your other question?
Do we think we'll see Joshua on the canvas again?
Yes, but that's not. I'm not like discrediting Joshua. No. I just think if they continue to match him against the best in the world, and I think with the way that he fights, he likes to stand in front of people and throw a lot of punches, which is why he's so captivating. I think there's a good chance he'll get caught. But they're heavyweights as well. It's not like the lower weights. It only takes one shot to put you over. If he fought Wilder and Wilder hits him with one of his, wild, crazy shots.
My feelings of both those questions is no. I don't think he'll be in a fight as big as that Klitschko fight. I don't think he'll be on the canvas again.
Don't say that.
So that's it.
Bleak out there.
Sorry, lads.
Well, that's interesting.
90,000 people at Wembley. Fury potentially that could whip it up, but that's a long way off that fight.
Yeah.
Who's got the one-punch power of Klitschko? I can't. Even Wilder, I can't see.
Wilder's too wild. I don't think Wilder's as powerful as Klitschko.
And what Joshua did show in the Klitschko fight is that he's resilient.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Because Klitschko put him down once. Klitschko caught him with a lot of other big shots that Joshua took. So I think Joshua does have a chin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. And he's got heart as well. He came back and
he's got a great corner.
Yeah, fantastic corner.
Yeah. Like Ron McCracken throughout he did a great job sort of steering through that fight.
And for a guy as experienced or inexperienced as Joshua was, he needed that, didn't he?
Yeah.
He himself said that he punched himself out in the 5th round, didn't he? And
he needed someone in his corner, like calm, experienced, like Rob McCracken, who just sit him down and say, relax.
Yeah. But I think he's learned from that too, in the way that he sort of went wild in the 5th round when he put him down. In the 11th when he hurt him, then he finished it.
Yeah.
So like we were saying earlier, I think in a rematch he'd probably be able to put in a more clinical finish if they did it.
You'd have thought so.
Yeah.
And Klitschko probably had an inkling that the right time to go was now because of deep down he knows.
Yeah, I think
but a lot of money to walk away from.
Yeah, and then respect Vlad even more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, an enormous amount of money to walk away from.
And even more reason it was the perfect time to go.
Yeah.
What's Wladimir going to do next? We had odds that.
Oh yeah.
Like, the odds on him being a Bond villain or president of the Ukraine.
Whatever he does, he'll be successful.
I mean,
he'll dominate.
He's got so much going on
for 11 years.
Yeah, outside the ring. They've got the Klitschko Foundation. I mean, there's K2 Promotions.
He's
I know
just
he's not
a
heavily
legend,
involved
isn't he?
in it,
He's
but
a great guy.
He's set for life. I mean, he could do nothing, couldn't he? He's set for life, but he's involved a lot. He's involved with charities.
He's like a role model, isn't he? He's that
Yeah.
guy. He's the guy that you take the novice heavyweights and you say, look at Klitschko.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him more involved in boxing again. Maybe like punditry, commentary, things like that. But
He's articulate. Isn't
yeah,
he?
he's very articulate.
He'd just join his brother and do stuff. he's kite surfing and whatever
just
he
living
does.
the life.
Yeah, whatever he does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one heavyweight who is coming back, David Price.
Yeah.
Fighting Rafael Zambano-Love, of all people.
Your favourite Brazilian heavyweight.
I remember he was in Las Vegas in January for Frampton Santa Cruz, and he had his own branded cap that said Zambano-Love on it. I just thought, respect to you for that. Respect you, because otherwise no one will have a clue who you are. John
absolutely loves that guy.
Well,
Price is a bit of an enigma, isn't he? He's like the classic, got all the tools, but there's something missing. We all thought that he would be a rival for Joshua, didn't we, when he turned pro, and that he went on a good run of beating guys. He annihilated Audley, didn't he?
Yeah.
We all thought, hang on, this guy
blitz people when Price was winning the British title.
Yeah. Where did it all go wrong?
I don't know. But is it going to go right on a comeback?
The thing is with Price is that, like we say, he's got all the tools, but he's definitely been mentally affected by those losses, by being knocked out, but also by the fact that it was to 2 drug cheats. I think that really affected him as well.
It's really unfair, basically.
Yeah, hugely unfair.
Price is the classic example of how boxing is more than just a physical sport.
Yeah, exactly.
His confidence must have been shattered. By the drug, the Turkish guy, wasn't it?
Yeah, Erkan Tepe and Tony Thompson.
Yeah.
None of them have had a punishment that fitted the crime.
Right.
Even if they had, then how do you compensate for the damage done to Price's career?
Exactly. It's unquantifiable, isn't it? So, what does he do? Is it right for him to come back?
I mean that's his decision, isn't it? Yeah. Who are we to sit here and say no? You shouldn't come back and give it another go. He said, the fire's still there and the questions are still there. If he wants to give it this one last go, then best of luck to him.
It almost is an example of the heart and the fighter that is there, that he wants to keep plugging away and he wants to put things right. So
shows a lot of bravery, doesn't it? To come back from 3 bad losses like that, and he still thinks he still wants to come and prove himself.
But I think the pressure is always going to be on. But I think they have to very carefully select opponents. Essentially, I think he should have a string of really easy fights against journeymen, against the Zambano-Loves of this world.
Get him on undercards, things like that. I think activity is important for him as well. I think it's always been important for Price, but I mean particularly at his age.
Yeah.
He's not really got time on his side, but I think get him on some undercards, like I say, it's his confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once his confidence there, he's a fantastic fighter.
Yeah, because he's got the physical tools.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think he should steer well clear of the likes of Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, but it doesn't mean there aren't potentially good fights for like a WBO title against Hughie Fury.
That's
or
not to
something
say
like
that should he get the chance at Joshua, he'd turn it down, because I'm sure it would be a payday.
I mean, he was in the running, wasn't he? I think.
In December when Joshua fought Molina, Price was also being certainly. I think Eddie Hearn was pushing for that. For December.
Was that before the Tepe fight?
No, that was
that was he had come back from those losses.
Yeah, so this was last year. So it's before his most recent loss to Hammer. It was before Joshua fought Molina, because it was sort of between Price and Molina. And I mean, in the UK, the Price fight obviously would have been a lot bigger, wouldn't it? To Olympic medalists.
Frankly, I think the thinking was that Molina should have been a bit more durable based on his fight with Wilder. So I think they went with that to try and get rounds of Joshua. But
the goal for Price will be to win the world heavyweight title. So.
Yeah, but hopefully you can do you can do that against someone who's not a thunderous puncher like Hughie Fury for a WBO or
Yeah, I mean,
or
yeah,
an
yeah,
aging
yeah.
David Hay or something.
It should be fun.
Wladimir Klitschko's retirement has overshadowed another great lead in the game, Juan Manuel Marquez, who retired at the weekend.
Well, Marquez, why retire now when you haven't fought for 3 years anyway? Just, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think he'd been trying to come back, but had been having injury problems.
Yeah. There was talk of the Cotto fight, wasn't there, and things like that. I think he was.
But we thought he was retired anyway, didn't we?
Well, for all intents and purposes, he was.
I mean, but as a boxer, he's a legend. Yeah, he's an all-time great Mexican.
One of Mexico's best ever as well.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the best counterpunches in history, easily.
Yeah. And when he needed to fight,
he had that Mexican instinct, didn't he, for a fight, for a war.
And when you look at a defining victory, it doesn't get much better than actually laying out Manny Pacquiao face first. That is
just a stunning win.
With one of the greatest one-punch knockouts you'll see.
Yeah,
So is he one of Mexico's greatest, other than Julio Cesar Chavez?
Yeah,
he's up there, isn't he?
Which is saying something, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the history from that country is incredible. But I think he's up there. You look at who he beat. I mean, the Pacquiao. I mean, come on, his rivalry with Pacquiao was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean those two. So what? The first fight he got off the floor 3 times.
Yeah, came back for a draw.
So he won more rounds basically.
Yeah.
Second fight it was a split decision.
Yeah.
And he was decked.
Yeah.
So, you know, to take those knockdowns away, he's beaten Pacquiao 3 or 4 times, isn't he?
Well, and those decisions were contentious, weren't they?
Yeah, the third fight was a majority decision. That was very close as well. And then the fourth fight, we know, he took it into his own hands.
Mr. Mayweather comfortably beat him, didn't he? But, that was, his weight. Marquez was really a lightweight, wasn't he, in that fight?
Style as well.
Because Mayweather, Marquez is a brilliant counterpuncher, and you're not going to counterpunch. You're not going to beat Mayweather in that sort of fight.
Especially giving away size.
Yeah, a lot of size. Mayweather changed the weight, I think, like a couple of days before, because it was originally, I think, 144 pounds, and I think then he changed it to 147.
The welterweight limit.
Yeah, so Marquez was, I think, like £5 less than Mayweather at the weigh-in. So that that obviously
you could see it.
But
and it's not like anyone's beat Mayweather.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's no shame to lose to Mayweather, is it?
No, I mean,
until Conor McGregor comes now.
I felt a bit for Marquez because that was Mayweather's comeback fight.
Yeah,
and you kind of had the thing about it that he was well chosen, as a great fighter, but a smaller great fighter who would be there. He wouldn't get blown away, but Mayweather could look good against him. But take that fight away, he's an all-time great, no doubt.
Yeah.
Tim Bradley has also retired. So Bradley has a really respectable body of work, but not the kind of, not the kind of devotion that many top fighters do have. But again, it's hard to knock Bradley's career and what he achieved.
No, he beat Junior Witter over here for the title. Of course, he beat Manny Pacquiao the first time, which was highly contentious.
Beat Marquez.
Of course, he beat Marquez.
That's his finest performance by far.
He had that incredible fight with Bogotnikov as well, which is up there with some of the best fights in history. I think that was incredible. He doesn't really seem to get the recognition that maybe he deserves. A multi-weight world champion. Beat Marquez.
Built like he's carved out of rock.
Yeah, I mean, always in incredible shape, always in shape, always.
Wasn't he like a vegan?
Yeah, vegan. Yeah.
But he was a beast. But I think it's more I think what counted against him is that he's had an amazing career, but some of those defining fights either fell flat in that when he unified titles against Devon Alexander, it just wasn't a great fight, it just didn't catch on. And then when he beat Pacquiao, when he got the decision against Pacquiao, he was more, he finished with both his ankles injured, so he finished in a wheelchair, being criticised by everyone for getting the decision.
He sort of made the villain, wasn't he?
So that sort of, at the time, that sort of clouded those achievements.
Yeah.
But again, he's another boxer with a phenomenal career.
Yeah. I think maybe in time, people will look back and say, oh, do you know what, actually he was a very, very good fighter. Exciting as well. Fast hand. He didn't have... I think maybe one thing as well, he didn't have great power, did he? He'd hit people with a lot of punches, but they wouldn't necessarily be put away. And in America, that sometimes is held against you, isn't it? But
yeah, and also, even though he fought Pacquiao 3 times, there were a lot of other good welterweights. Was it 3 times?
Twice.
No, because didn't he lost the controversial decision to him.
Yeah.
Pacquiao avenged it. And
no, he fought him twice. Yeah.
Right.
No, sorry, they did fight 3 times. Pacquiao beat him twice.
Yeah, because then Pacquiao had
Yeah.
his farewell fight
That's right,
also
yeah.
against Bradley.
Yeah.
But again, that fight basically gets confused in our minds with Pacquiao's vengeance. But I think But yeah, sorry. So he fought Pacquiao 3 times, but at a time when there are a lot of good welterweights, he didn't fight. Obviously, he didn't fight Mayweather, or there are other good guys around like Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia, or even Amir Khan, and those fights didn't materialise, which is a shame.
He
because it's just going to remain a
He wasn't that big money name, was he? He was just high risk, not so much reward for those other bigger names in the division, and I think that was partly why he didn't get those fights. Someone like Mayweather's, would have looked at Bradley and thought that's a tough fight, and it's not necessarily someone that's going to make me as much money as such and such.
Do you think Bradley actually had the style to give Mayweather a hard time? In that, not a huge puncher, but very competent and really good work rate, a more refined Maidana type attacker.
I think that's the key word for it, work rate. But Bradley could also be, he left himself open for counters, like Pacquiao showed that, and I think at times he maybe would have given Mayweather trouble with his work rate, but I still would have heavily favoured Mayweather in that. I think it's counter punching.
I don't think you'll find many people picking Bradley.
No, but he had great hand speed as well, Bradley, and that would have caused a few problems for Mayweather, but I don't think he would have been as successful as